What would you do if a little girl, no older than 3, walked up to you, looked straight into your eyes, and asked, "Will you come to my birthday party?" You don't know her name. You don't know where she comes from. All you see is a faded dress, mismatched shoes, and hands clutching a tiny cloth bag. Then she whispers, "Mommy's sick, but she'll still smile if you come." Would you follow her into the unknown? Would you risk stepping inside a world that could break your heart or heal it? This is the story of a man who answered yes, and it changed everything. The wind cut across Havenford in sharp whispers. Dry leaves scraped along cracked pavement, pushed by invisible hands. Behind a block of tired brick apartments, a forgotten park waited in silence. A swing creaked once, rust groaned, then stilled. The world here felt paused, like it had stopped caring long ago. On a weathered bench sat Caleb North. Charcoal suit, crisp lines, polished shoes, everything immaculate, except for the man himself. His shoulders bent forward. His tie hung too tight against a throat that no longer swallowed easily. In his hands, a paper coffee cup, lukewarm and clutched like an anchor. 7 years. That was the count. 7 years to the day since he had buried the only child who called him Dad. He had gone early this morning. The cemetery was quiet. The headstone freshly cleaned. The grass trimmed around its base. Her name still gleamed in silver cuts across white marble. He had laid lilies there, white, soft, almost fragile enough to crumble in his hands. They had been her favorite, though she never got old enough to say so out loud. There was no ceremony, no candles, no guests. Just Caleb, the stone, and silence. Now he sat on the bench, eyes unfocused. His mind replayed the same what-ifs that haunted him every September. The same hollow ache filled his chest like a second skeleton. Then he felt it. Not a touch, not a sound. The sensation of being watched. A shuffle on the concrete pulled him back. Small, uneven steps scraped against the ground. Caleb turned his head. A girl stood only a few feet away, no older than 3. Blonde hair tangled into a wild crown, strands sticking where they wanted. Her dress was sky blue once, now faded into gray at the seams. A small cloth bag pressed tight to her chest, like treasure she couldn't risk losing. Her shoes didn't match, one red, one pink. Her cheeks were streaked with chocolate or dirt. But her eyes cut through the dusk like glass washed in rain. Clear, bright, watching him without fear. "Are you sad too, mister?" she asked. Her voice was curious, light, as if asking about the weather. Caleb blinked. Words caught. What makes you think that? His voice cracked. She lifted her hand, pointing with a gravity only children carry. "Because you sit alone, like me." The words hit harder than they should. He tried to mask it with a small smile. "And why are you alone, sweetheart?" The girl straightened her back, suddenly serious. "It's my birthday today. Mommy's sick, but she'll still smile if you come to my party." Her tone was firm, unshaken, as if the decision had already been made for him. Caleb froze. He had faced boardrooms, billion-dollar deals, ruthless negotiations. None had left him this defenseless. He looked around, searching for anyone else. But the park remained still. Far in the distance, 2 kids chased a ball. But they didn't notice her. Beyond them, a row of apartments sagged under years of weather. Nothing about this seemed planned. "I don't think I should intrude," Caleb said carefully. He shifted forward on the bench, preparing to stand. But a tiny hand reached first. Her fingers tugged the sleeve of his jacket, surprisingly firm for someone so small. Her next words came softer, edged with plea. "Please, I saved candies from school. Just for today. Her eyes held something that should never live in a child's gaze. A kind of urgency that cracked the walls Caleb had built for years. He looked down at her, then past her, to the lonely curtain swaying in a second-floor window, to the empty slides and silent swings around them. His throat tightened. The last birthday he had attended was not hers. It was his daughter's, in a hospital room, surrounded by machines. She had whispered, "It's okay, Daddy. We can pretend." Now this child was pretending too. Caleb exhaled, long and heavy. "All right then. Lead the way, birthday girl." The words surprised him as much as they delighted her. Her face burst into sunrise. No storm could hold back the warmth of her smile. Without hesitation, she reached again for his hand. Her palm was cold, but steady. He let her guide him as they walked. Her voice bubbled, unstoppable. She told him about the drawings she had made in school, about how Mommy was resting, how the other kids had gone home already. But it was still a party, because she had her candies, and now she had a guest. Caleb listened. Every word anchored him more to the present than he had been in years. Up ahead, the buildings grew taller, windows broken, paint chipped. A dog barked somewhere, echoing between walls. The sun slid lower, bending shadows across the pavement. Caleb realized he wasn't thinking about board meetings, or stock reports, or the hollow chair in his penthouse. He was just following a child who had seen his sadness before he even spoke. And for reasons he couldn't name, that made him feel human again. The hallway smelled of mildew. Paint peeled in long strips. Light flickered from a weak bulb overhead. The girl skipped with purpose, cloth bag bouncing at her side. She hummed a tune, off-key, but determined. Her grip never loosened from his hand. 2 flights up. Wood creaked under their weight. She stopped at a door painted blue, the number 4B barely hanging. She knocked twice. Gentle, familiar, then pushed the door open. "Mommy, I brought someone." Her voice carried like a trumpet of joy through the dim. Caleb froze on the threshold. Inside, the apartment was smaller than he expected. Dim light spilled from a single yellow bulb above a sagging sink. Walls bore stains of age, patched in one corner with cardboard. A couch sat beneath the window, cushions sinking. On it lay a woman, frail, blonde, pale. Her chest rose with shallow effort. An oxygen tube traced across her face, curling into a machine at her side. Eyes blinked open at the sound. She turned toward the doorway, saw her daughter, then saw Caleb. Her body stiffened. Confusion flashed, then concern. She tried to push herself up. Her arm gave out. She nearly slipped back, catching herself with a groan. Caleb raised his hands quickly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. She invited me to a party." His voice carried apology. Awkward, but true. The woman's breath was ragged. But her tone when it came was composed. "You came. With her?" He nodded once. "She found me in the park. Said today was her birthday." Silence stretched, sharp and uncertain. The little girl, busy in the room, didn't notice. She gathered napkins, set 2 mismatched teacups on a folding table. Her pride was radiant, her joy untouchable. And for a moment, even the frail woman's eyes softened. "Well then," she whispered, almost smiling. "In that case, welcome." The apartment felt smaller once Caleb stepped in. Air hummed from the oxygen machine. The light flickered like it was nervous, too. The little girl moved with ceremony. She pulled a faded paper plate from a drawer. She smoothed the wrinkles with both hands. She opened her cloth bag. 3 candies rolled into her palm. Red, blue, green. She placed them in a neat triangle. Her chin lifted like a maitre d' at a fine hotel. "This is the party?" she said. Caleb lowered himself to the floor. He folded his coat carefully, set it beside him. He looked at the plate as if it were bone china. "Thank you for inviting me," he said. The girl beamed. Her joy felt like heat in the cold room. The woman on the couch watched them. Her breathing steadied by degrees. Caleb could feel her caution from across the space. The girl tapped the plate. "I'll sing now." Her hands pressed together as if for prayer. "Happy birthday to me," she began. Her voice wobbled, but kept going. At the last line, it fell to a whisper. No cake waited, no wax, no wick. Only 3 small candies glowing under her hope. Caleb's hand slid into his jacket. He drew out a silver lighter, old and scuffed. He scanned the counter and saw a wooden toothpick in a cup. He snapped it in half. He sparked the lighter. The tiny flame licked the wood into amber. He held it upright. "Make a wish, birthday girl." The little one leaned in and blew. Smoke curled, thin as thread. Darkness pressed in again, but the room felt warmer than before. Caleb took apart a plastic pen. He turned the tube into a small candle holder. He set the toothpick stub in the center of the plate. He carried the lighter to the woman. Their eyes met for the first time without flinching. "Would you do the honors?" he asked. Her fingers shook as she flicked. Spark, miss, spark, flame. She lit the tiny candle with care. The girl clapped once, then twice. "It's a real birthday," she said. Her smile reached all the way to her eyes. They pretended to pour tea. They split the candies as if they were slices of cake. They laughed at nothing and everything. When it was time to leave, Caleb stood slowly. He noticed a loose coat hook by the door. He unfastened his leather watch strap and made a makeshift brace. The hook held. He wiped dust from the peeling frame with a folded handkerchief. He didn't explain why. He never did. He left a small note on the table. "Tomorrow. I'll bring tea." It read. He paused in the doorway, then stepped into the hall. Morning arrived in glass and steel. Redwood and gray partners gleamed over Havenford like a crown. Caleb walked the length of the corridor to the boardroom. The skyline stretched behind the table like a promise. Screens blinked alive. Charts stacked on charts. "Project Meadowline," announced Graham Cole. "Demo permits ready. We're on schedule to clear East Haven." He glanced at Caleb as if to say, "Sign." Caleb lifted a hand. "Pause it." The word cut clean through the room. Graham frowned. "We have entitlements, financing, crews on standby." He tapped a spreadsheet like it was a weapon. "We haven't measured the human cost," Caleb said. "We haven't listened to anyone who lives there." Silence fell, brittle and hard. "We can add a community forum," someone muttered, "after we start demolition." Graham's smile didn't reach his eyes. "No," Caleb said. "We revise the plan before we touch a brick." He folded his hands. The meeting's momentum died. The room exhaled confusion. Mics clicked off. Eyes darted like bees in a jar. Caleb stood. "We'll reconvene with a new proposal." He left before anyone recovered. The elevator ride down felt endless. He could feel the company turning in his wake, a ship resisting a new current. He drove back to East Haven. 2 miles can feel like 2 worlds. The apartments rose like old teeth in a tired mouth. He knocked on 4B with a small bakery box in hand. The door opened to the girl's squeal. "Is that for me?" "It is," he said. "Your official birthday redo." He held up 4 slim candles and a pale pink cupcake. The woman had combed her hair. A fresh shirt, worn but clean. She leaned against the frame and let herself smile. They set up at the folding table. Plastic forks, paper napkins, the paper plate from yesterday. It felt like a tradition already. "Can I light them?" the girl asked. "With help," the woman said, guiding her small hand. 4 flames trembled, then stood tall. The girl closed her eyes. She blew in one steady breath. Wax smoked. Joy spilled. Caleb unwrapped a comic book in brown paper. "An old favorite?" he said. He read in voices that made the girl hiccup with laughter. The sun slid over the grimy window. A small square of light warmed the table. Time moved softly, step by step. He rose to leave when shadows stretched long. By the door, paint curled like a shed skin. He wiped it clean again without thinking. He placed another note. "Next time, tea." He hesitated, then left. That night, the city dressed in crystal. A ballroom glowed under chandeliers. Deals whispered over floating canapes. Caleb stood with a glass he didn't want. He nodded at names he wouldn't remember. His phone buzzed against his wrist. He looked down. A photo filled the screen. Crayon on printer paper, 3 stick figures holding hands. Mom plus me plus nice man equals happy. A crown on the little figure. A suit on the tall one with big hands. He set the glass down. He excused himself without words. He left the glitter to its mirrors. Back at East Haven, the halls murmured. Stairs lasted a second too long. Voices echoed from doorways. "That's the suit," someone whispered. "He's the one from the company. He'll clear us out first chance he gets." Caleb kept walking. He didn't argue with the air. He didn't defend himself to shadows. At 4B, he paused, then knocked. The door opened before the second tap. "Come in," the woman said. "She's been asking since breakfast." The girl ran into him like a small comet. "Look," she said, holding a new drawing. "Today I drew you with a flashlight." Caleb smiled. "A good tool," he said. "Better than a sword?" The woman watched from the doorway. Her eyes measured him again, but with less fear. Maybe with the first trace of trust. They went inside. He set a small kettle on the stove. He rinsed 2 mugs and found a third. He checked a bulb in the lamp by the couch. It flickered, then steadied. He tightened the shade and twisted the base until it held. The girl climbed onto a chair and waved a plastic crown. "Night," she said. He bowed with a hand over his heart. For an hour, nothing remarkable happened. Tea steamed. Crayons rolled. The evening thinned to blue. Caleb stood in the doorway again. He looked back once, then left for the night. In the stairwell, a man in a cap stepped aside. He watched Caleb pass with a guarded stare. He didn't say hello. Neither did Caleb. Outside, the wind had changed. It smelled like rain. It sounded like another choice approaching. At Redwood and Gray, emails piled up. Graham's subject lines sharpened by the hour. Contracts were time-sensitive. Crews were mobilized. Caleb shut his laptop. He leaned back in the dark office. He listened to the hum of the building. He pictured a paper plate with 3 candies. A tiny candle no wider than a match. A girl who called it a party and made it true. He opened a new document. He titled it Meadowline, Community Revision. He began to type. In 4B. The woman tucked her daughter into bed. She stood a moment longer, watching her sleep. Then she turned to the sink, where a jar sat clean and empty. A faint soot ring marked its lid, from a candle that was never meant to be. She touched the mark like it was a warning and a blessing. In a notebook by the couch, she wrote one line. "He seems kind." Then another. "Kind doesn't always stay." She closed the cover and exhaled. Somewhere across town, a man edited a plan that could move buildings. He didn't yet know it would move lives first. The week stretched on in uneven days. Rain pressed down on the city. Havenford's streets glistened under tired lamps. Inside 4B, evenings turned into quiet rituals. A kettle warmed, crayons rolled, stories unfolded. Caleb returned often, sometimes with nothing more than time. Whispers in the hall kept following him. A man with a cap muttered, "That's the company suit?" A woman shook her head. "He'll take the block apart." Caleb said nothing. He carried groceries up 2 flights, left them by the door. He fixed a loose hinge, tightened a window latch, moved on. But the stairs lingered. Suspicion wrapped around him like smoke. Trust was still too far away. Then came the night the lights failed. One blink. Then all of East Haven went black. Street by street. The grid collapsed into silence. In 4B, Ivy squealed in delight. "Mom, it's magic." Nora lit a candle with careful hands, face pale in the glow. A knock startled her. She opened the door to find Caleb, flashlight raised, a tote bag slung over his shoulder. "You really came?" she asked. Even in the dark, he smiled, lifting the bag. "That's when tea tastes best." He set the flashlight on the floor, angled up. The beam spread across the ceiling, softening the walls. Shadows stretched, tall and gentle. From the bag he pulled shortbread cookies, a thermos of hot water, 3 small cups, plastic pink. Ivy clapped her hands. "It's a tea party." She set the cups in a circle on the floor. Nora lowered herself carefully, knees bending slow. Caleb joined them cross-legged. The flashlight lit their faces in a soft halo. "Tonight we have a guest," Nora said. She looked at her daughter. "Sir Caleb, night of cookies." "What kind of night is that?" he asked. "The rarest kind," Ivy answered, beaming. Nora laughed, a sound she hadn't made in weeks. They poured imaginary tea. They broke cookies into small halves. They sipped and pretended. Then Nora began a story about a lonely princess in a tower of blankets. Her voice carried warmth despite the rasp. Caleb continued without pause. He told of a knight who carried a beam of light instead of a sword. A knight who found the tower not by chance, but by promise. Ivy leaned forward, eyes wide. Her hands flapped in excitement. She added silly twists, laughing so hard she hiccuped. Together, they called it The Sick Princess and the Knight with the Light. The title made Ivy squeal. It made Nora's lips curve, even through pain. Time slipped easily. For once, the oxygen machine was not the loudest thing in the room. The flashlight buzzed faintly as its battery dimmed. Ivy's energy waned. Her head slipped into her mother's lap. Her breaths grew even, lashes brushing her cheeks. Nora leaned back against the wall. The glow played across her tired eyes. Her voice lowered to a whisper. "I'm scared," she said. "Scared of getting used to this. To you. To her being this happy. Then losing it." Caleb didn't answer at first. He studied the shadows dancing across the peeling wallpaper. He exhaled. "So am I," he said. "But maybe this is the first thing I don't want to lose." His hand hovered, then settled on hers. Not romantic, not dramatic, just steady. Nora looked down at their joined hands. Her throat moved, but no words came. The silence wrapped them like a blanket. The flashlight dimmed further. The candle flickered, weak but stubborn. They sat in that fragile balance, waiting for nothing. Later, Nora carried Ivy to bed. The little girl clutched her stuffed bear, arms wrapped tight. As she lifted her, something slipped to the floor. A drawing, fresh, lines messy, a stick figure of Nora in bed, a candle nearby, and a tall figure holding light. Nora picked it up, She must have drawn it earlier, she whispered. Her voice cracked. Caleb looked at the drawing. Stronger than she looks, he said quietly. He added, just like you. Nora didn't respond with words. Instead, she reached out. Her fingers rested over his. He held them gently. Neither of them moved. The candlelight carried the rest. The night stretched. No declarations, only breathing. By morning, the grid groaned back alive. Street lamps blinked on. Appliances hummed to life, but the apartment in 4B felt unchanged. A fragile trust had been lit in the dark. Neither of them dared name it yet. 3 days later, dawn broke with sirens. Caleb was already awake, sipping bitter coffee at his apartment window. His phone lit with a call. She's not waking up. A nurse said, the little one called 911. Yours was the only number she remembered. Caleb didn't wait for more. Keys, jacket, door. The city blurred. He reached the hospital in minutes that felt like hours. Fluorescent light buzzed above the ICU. Machines hissed and beeped in sterile rhythm. Nora lay still, skin pale as linen. A nurse adjusted the IV, then stepped aside. Caleb entered without speaking. He sat at the edge of her bed. He brushed a stray hair from her forehead. His hands trembled as he draped his jacket across her legs. Behind him came soft footsteps. Ivy appeared in the doorway, sweater too big, bare in her arms. Her eyes were wide and sleepless. She walked to the foot of the bed. She knelt, setting the bear carefully on the floor. Then she unzipped her small pink coat. She folded it with care. She laid it across the stuffed bear. Because he's cold too, she whispered. Caleb felt his throat close. No words came. No boardroom could teach him how to hold this. Later, the doctor pulled him aside. They sat in a private consultation room, the air sharp with disinfectant. The verdict landed like a stone. We've done all we can, the doctor said. Her immune system has collapsed. She needs a marrow transplant. Urgently. His eyes lowered. The list is long. Months. Maybe more. Caleb didn't hesitate. Test me. The doctor blinked. Mr. North, it's unlikely. Test me. His voice was steel. It left no room for debate. The doctor nodded slowly. Paperwork slid across the table. Caleb signed. The next 72 hours stretched thin. Emails stacked up at Redwood in gray. Graham called twice, then 3 times. Sign the Meadowline contracts, he demanded. Crews are waiting. Deadlines don't move. Caleb hung up each time. He spent the nights at the hospital. He sat by Nora's bed. He watched Ivy sleep curled beside the bear. The test results arrived on the 3rd morning. The nurse's face told him before her words, "You're a match." The words echoed in Caleb's head. You're a match. 3 syllables that shifted the ground beneath his feet. The nurse looked at him, waiting. He didn't hesitate. What do I sign? She slid the forms across the counter. He read nothing. He signed everything. Pre-op instructions followed. Tests, schedules, disclaimers. Words blurred together like static. He didn't tell Nora. He didn't tell Ivy. Not yet. In the waiting area. His phone buzzed. Graham Cole. Caleb answered on the 3rd ring. You've gone silent. Graham snapped. Meadowline needs your approval. Crews are stalled. His voice carried the sharp edge of investors behind him. Caleb pressed his palm to his forehead. I said the plan is paused. You can't pause millions of dollars. Then we lose millions, Caleb said flatly. Graham exhaled like steam from a pipe. You've lost perspective. North, don't let sentiment sink you. Caleb looked through the glass wall. Past the nurse's station, down the hall where Nora lay unconscious. Maybe sentiment is the only thing keeping me standing. He hung up. He let the phone buzz until it stopped. Then he leaned back, closing his eyes against the harsh light. The procedure came fast. Needles, monitors, anesthesia prep. The hum of machines rising around him. Pain struck like an old rival. It dug deep into marrow and muscle. It left him hollowed, raw. But when it was done, he forced himself upright. Bandaged, sore, heavier than before, still moving. A day later, Nora stirred awake. Her eyes fluttered open under the wash of fluorescent light. She saw him sitting by her bed. "You," she whispered, voice dry. Her gaze sharpened. "You did it, didn't you?" Caleb didn't deny it. He only nodded. Her breath caught. "You can't just fix everything." Her words were half anger, half fear. "You can't walk into my life and play savior." "I'm not fixing," he said. His tone was steady, quiet. "I'm choosing." She stared at him, searching for cracks. All she found was fatigue and truth. Her eyes softened, though tears brimmed. Her hand, weak, slid across the blanket. He reached and wrapped his fingers over hers. The monitor beeped steadily beside them. Neither spoke again. Silence carried more weight than words. News spread through the block. Neighbors began to stop by. Bowls of soup, loaves of bread. Children drew cards in marker and glitter. "Get well soon. Miss Nora. Happy family. Ivy plus Mommy plus Mr. Nora." North. In the halls, suspicion dimmed. Curiosity replaced whispers. Respect, even gratitude, began to show. But in the glass towers uptown, the storm brewed louder. Board members circulated memos. Investors demanded progress. Redwood and Gray could not stand still. Project Meadowline was a flagship. Billions sat waiting. Caleb returned to the office for the first time in weeks. The conference room brimmed with tension. Suits lined the table like a jury. Graham stood at the head. Charts glowed on the screen behind him. East Haven clearance, timeline already broken. North. "This is on you." All eyes landed on Caleb. He stood, posture tall though his body ached. His voice carried no apology. "I won't approve a demolition that erases lives." A murmur rolled across the room. One director muttered, "Sentimentality." Caleb pressed forward. "We revise Meadowline. We preserve 3 blocks. We build housing people can afford. We integrate the high-rise into the community." He let the words settle. "That's impossible," Graham snapped. "You'd tank margins, cut profits by 40%. His fists clenched against the table. "Then let them fall," Caleb said. "I'd rather lose money than conscience." Silence cut through, sharp and final. Someone cleared their throat. "Shareholders won't like this. They'll like the press less." Caleb countered. He pointed to the headlines projected behind them. Photos of East Haven children under demolition deadline. Public anger already simmering. If we bulldoze without care, we kill more than buildings. We kill trust. And without trust, there is no Meadowline. There is no Redwood and Gray. His words struck deeper than numbers. The room sat heavy with them. Graham's jaw locked. "You're risking everything." Caleb looked him in the eye. "No," he said. "I'm saving what matters." He left before anyone argued again. Back at the hospital, Nora was sitting upright. Color touched her cheeks for the first time in weeks. Ivy sat cross-legged beside her, crayons spread wide. Caleb entered quietly. The girl ran to him with a new drawing. "Look us 3 again. And I gave you a cape this time." He crouched, smiling faintly. "Knights don't wear capes." "They do now," she insisted. Nora watched, lips curving into the smallest laugh. For the first time, hope didn't look foreign on her face. It looked natural. That evening, Caleb stood by the window of his penthouse. City lights blinked below, cold and unblinking. For years, he had thought this view was power. Now it felt empty. What mattered sat 2 miles away, in a small room with peeling paint. And he knew he'd go back. The next morning, he did. The hallway smelled of disinfectant and laundry soap. Nora's door was half open. Inside, Ivy held up a picture book. She stumbled over the words, giggling when she missed one. Nora corrected her gently, smile lingering. Caleb paused at the doorway. He let himself breathe it in. Then he stepped forward, choosing once more. The weeks that followed moved differently. Nora gained color. Her steps, slow but hers, returned piece by piece. Ivy never let her rest too long. She pulled her mother's hand toward coloring books, toward blanket forts. Her laughter filled the narrow hall of 4B. Caleb visited daily, sometimes with groceries, sometimes with tea, sometimes with nothing but a story in his pocket. The neighbors noticed. One by one, suspicion faded. They began to greet him in the stairwell instead of looking away. Still, tension grew uptown. Investors wanted updates. Graham sharpened his warnings. You can't stall forever. North. He cornered Caleb in the elevator one morning. You're dragging Redwood and Gray into ruin. Caleb answered with calm steel. Not ruin, renewal. The doors slid open, ending the clash. Days later, a board meeting boiled over. Directors demanded margins. Charts glowed, stacked with losses. Caleb let them speak. Then he stood, tall against the projection light. We aren't erasing East Haven. We're rebuilding it. Murmurs rippled. He explained the new plan. 3 blocks preserved, housing affordable to those already there. The tower would still rise, but not on ashes. A park would anchor it. A school would neighbor it. This will cost us, Graham snapped. Caleb didn't flinch. Then let it. Because if we crush families, we crush our future too. The silence that followed was thick. Some frowned. Others leaned back in thought. The decision wasn't final, but the shift was undeniable. That night, Havenford Times ran the headline, Meadow Line Revision Redwood and Gray to Protect East Haven. Photos of children under string lights filled the page. Back at 4B, Nora read the article twice. She set it down on the counter. Her hands trembled, but not from weakness. When Caleb knocked, she opened without hesitation. You really meant it, she said softly. He only nodded. Spring rolled into the city. East Haven's courtyards bloomed with paper lanterns and chalk drawings. Neighbors began planning together, not whispering apart. And then, Ivy's birthday arrived again. The 4th since she was born. The first where hope was stronger than fear. The backyard behind Block C was small, uneven, but alive. Streamers hung between crooked posts. Paper lanterns swayed in the breeze. A table stood in the center, cloth rippling, plates stacked high, juice boxes lined. At the heart of it, one white cake with pink trim. 4 slim candles waited. Beside them, one bright number 5. It glistened in the dusk. Neighbors gathered. Children ran barefoot through grass. Their laughter echoed between the walls. Nora wore a pale blue dress. Her hair, soft and short, brushed her shoulders. She leaned lightly on the table, steady. Caleb stood at her side, cake in his hands. The crowd hushed when he spoke. Princess, your royal cake is ready. Ivy spun in her dress, sequins catching light. A crown sat crooked on her head. She dashed forward, clasping her hands. Nora struck the match. One by one, The candles flared. 4 slim flames, and then the 5th. The glow lit Ivy's face. She closed her eyes. She whispered a wish only the night could hear. Then she blew. All 5 flames danced, sputtered, vanished. Smoke curled upward, faint and sweet. Cheers erupted. Hands clapped. Voices rose. Ivy's laughter bubbled like water over stone. Caleb set the cake down. He leaned close as she tugged his sleeve. "You were my first candle," she whispered. He paused, smile breaking slow and deep. "And you were my first light." Her giggle sealed the words. They cut the cake together. Frosting smeared on small fingers. Neighbors passed plates down the line. A group of children tugged Ivy away to dance. Music played from a tinny speaker. Shoes scattered. Bare feet moved in rhythm. Nora watched them, arms folded lightly. Her smile reached all the way to her eyes. Caleb stepped beside her. "You should sit," he said. "I should live." She answered. They both laughed quietly. She slipped her hand into his, this time without hesitation. Her grip was warm, strong. The lanterns above swayed. Shadows played across the yard. But the center was filled with light. People mingled. Children ran. Music carried. Yet everything seemed to orbit 3 figures. A woman who had fought. A man who had chosen. A child who had lit the way. Ivy skipped back, face sticky with frosting. She lifted her arms, and Caleb scooped her up. She leaned into his shoulder, tired but glowing. "Did your wish come true?" he asked. She nodded against his ear. "I wished we could stay like this forever." Caleb kissed her forehead. "We already are," he said softly. Nora's arm wrapped around them both. The sky deepened into twilight. Lanterns shone like captured stars. Voices rose in a chorus of joy. At the edge of the yard, a man in a cap watched. He had once doubted the stranger in the suit. Now he nodded, almost smiling. The celebration swelled. A new chapter had already begun. The night carried it forward, and so, in the heart of Havenford, under fading light, a truth lingered. Sometimes the smallest birthday, with the humblest flame, becomes the beginning of everything. Sometimes, the smallest spark of kindness can light up an entire life. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to share it with someone who might need a little hope today. And tell us in the comments, what was the moment when kindness changed your path? Thank you for spending your time with us, and for letting this story live in your day. Until we meet again, may your heart stay gentle, and your tomorrow a little brighter.